We got some meats out here today. Dang. Holy meat factory. Nice. The tires have arrived for Hefty. And yes, she will be Hefty once again. Today is another glorious day because we're bringing the meats to get Hoosiers and the Welds mounted up together, and the tire shop here is going to be like, what is up with this couple? Anyway, here they go. Look at this beautiful woman rolling off my wheels. We'll see you guys when these get mounted up. We ran into a little bit of an issue with our meats over here. They're actually so big that they don't fit on your standard tire balancer machine, so they're able to mount them for us but not balance them. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of work and research. Might have a few options here, but man, those look so good. Might be able to find a different kind of place, get them balanced up for us, or Roger was telling me they're called Centromatic wheel balancers. They look like that, and they'll kind of fit right behind the wheel and kind of have some fluid in there with some ball bearings or something like that. And they'll do the job of balancing the tire too, so we might try those. We might try another balancing shop if we can get one. Well, check in with me later and see what happens. Yeah, that's awesome. Doesn't get much cooler than that. Well, here's our new axles from Moser Axles. Nice and cut down to fit to length. These over here. You can see the difference there in our cut. We also had them go a little bit longer on the splines just to make sure if we had to do a little bit cutting here on the end of the axle just to get the fitment perfect we could and not run out of room. So there it is. Old versus new. Got 1 3/4 studs, 1/2 inch wide. Heck yeah. Here's a new bearing set for Hefty's axle. And then we got a new gear set. We're gonna go from 410 down to 373 to give us a little better highway ability. We media blasted the third member housing. Looks really good, nice and clean. We can get that painted up. As well as the drum brake backing plates and the new drums. And the snubber and a couple other pieces there for the pinion. The drum parts that I cleaned up over at Rogers, I've got them back here at the house and just quickly sprayed them off. I'm gonna do a little pre-prep, wipe them down, and then get some Rust-Oleum on there and make them look nice. So satisfying. Heck yeah. Some other things we're going to fix here on Hefty's rear end is you can see when the last guys had gone through this thing, they moved the perches for the leaf springs over here and they left all this nastiness on the housing. So even though we're probably going to lose about 5 inches here and this one will disappear, going to grind this down, get that nice and cleaned up, get rid of all these gross boogery welds. So I'm going to actually cut off these, mark where they were, and then re-weld these looking nice. We're going to get rid of these shock hangers and put some nicer newer ones from Speedway on there because also they're crooked. They're both like opposing at like different angles. One is kind of like this and one is straight, so that's gonna go away. Just gonna make this clean look really nice because you know what, we're not gonna spend all this time and money on this rear end to make it look crappy. I'm just gonna punch to mark where the old ones were so we can reference that to where we're gonna put the new ones. You can see our punch marks, so now we just know where everything used to be. Then we can rip these off and clean it up, put them back where they should go. All right, let's get cutting. Got out the big hammer to get this guy loose. Yeah, that's going away. You can get rid of all the boogeriness someone else did. Get that nice and cleaned up. Like I said, these we'll get rid of. Replace those with a nice new set. And those will go there. Much better. Off with the second one. Knock those boogers right out of there. Nasty. Goodbye. Get this all knocked down here. Much better that to that. Yeah. Hell yeah. Found a machine that'll actually fit them. We couldn't get the hood to close on that one. Finally get some balance on these wheels. Hell yeah, now we are balanced. We can actually head down the road to Vegas and not be shaking and wobbling like Hefty always does. So it's a new car once again. Nothing more satisfying than finally figuring out the solution to your problem. Because it's hard to find a machine or someone with a machine that actually fits those tires, so we got them. Now it's time for some turbo diesel fun. The meat factory's here.
Right.
Heck yeah. New versus old. Here's from the back base of this part of the wheel. And then I think I took a picture of it. I think I actually went across.
There.
Yeah. This is 11, and then that one was 5.5.
Yeah, you'll be able to keep them babies clean.
That's right. My new part-time project of polishing them.
Well, it's part-time, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Partially full.
Yeah. You were the wheel.
Both?
Yeah, okay.
Wildcat today. And it is another big day here. We're actually going to be cutting down the axle housing now. I went through yesterday and cleaned up all the nasty boogers that were on this thing. So now we're actually going to get this thing cut to length. We've got the wheels here. You guys just saw it got balanced. We can compare our back spacing from our new to the old one. Determine how much we're going to cut from it. And I'm super excited. I can't wait to have this new axle and these new wheels underneath the back of Hefty. This is going to be really cool. Roger had ran this thing through the chemical wash machine that he has, so it's really nice and degreased. Clean start for us. Been building this really nice Ford engine back here too. This thing's gonna make a whole bunch of power, which is pretty cool to see. And this is where we'll get Alex's engine assembled too. And I know some of you might start drooling over the Buick real quick. If you want to know more about this car, check back in some videos I got maybe a year or two ago. Did a little bit of a story behind the Buick and show you a whole lot more about it. Alex and I also drove this car across country, which is really cool, all the way from Rochester, New York to get out here to Salt Lake back almost a year ago, October 2020. Nonetheless, here's our axle, and I'm just gonna go get a wire brush and some Scotch-Brite pads and clean this housing off, make it look nice, real nice. It's too big to fit into the media blaster, so maybe when we cut it down to length, it'll fit in there. Give it a final blast, but for now, getting it cleaned up just a little bit better still. Nicely cleaned down. Go ahead and now do our final measurement on our wheels. Check our math. Make sure we're good to go and come here on the axle housing and actually cut it. Section it back in, and we'll be good to hook. So what we're going to do is just weld these pieces of steel tubing to the table. Get ourselves a good picture to work off of, and then we can get the actual axle cut down and not have moving around on it. And hopefully be kind of straight. Roger's going to take it a step further, and we're going to actually make holes in the steel here, so this way we can actually mount down the axle right to it after we weld it. So always another step ahead here. It's pretty cool working in a machine shop because you got everything you need to do everything you need to do. Lucky. Heck yeah. Alright, now it's time for us to do the math. Triple check my math, because you've got 11 inches of back spacing on this wheel, 5.5 inches of back spacing on the other wheel. So theoretically speaking, we should be removing 5.5 inches from our axle housing on each side. But we'll just triple check, make sure there's nothing I didn't account for or think about, and we'll take it from there. Also trying to relocate this larger flange part of the axle here.
Width now, 54 and 8.
Triple checked our math between our back spacing. We're knowing we're having to take 5.5 inches off the housing, but as you can see, there's this step here in the actual end of the flange, so we don't want to lose this. So we're actually going to lose 5.5 inches in here, and then relocate this inward. So this is going to stay here, so we don't want to lose this step and all the machining that was done in there. Triple checking on our new axles and making sure I had these cut to 24 inches from 29, so a 5-inch loss. I went a little bit longer just in case I had screwed something up, so we actually are still going to wind up needing to take a 1/2 inch, maybe just a little bit more off the end of the shaft here, but that's plenty of spline that we had cut into it, so we'll be good to go. We were just cross comparing it with the third member and the carrier, so looks like we're pretty good on our math here, and yeah, we're pretty much just gonna have to get ourselves a nice square cut, and then we can get everything put back together.
Better. This is it.
There's the 5.5 inches that we have to lose right there. Goodbye.
Yep. Party's over for you.
Now, even though this is partially rough, this will get nice and cleaned up and make this nice and square, get all the edges cleaned. And then what Roger's doing over here on the lathe is putting in this piece, because what we need now, this is what's disappearing, this 5.5 inches, but this 2.5 inches here on the end flange we need, so we can cut this on the lathe and know that it's nice and square and true. And Roger was just commenting on how thick the actual metal is on the axle on this shoe. It's some pretty thick stuff. Deburring.
Yeah, they're kind kind of close, but
Kind of, sort of, kind of not.
yeah,
Roundish enough.
yeah. Cut it off. Cut it right off with the weld. Rather, I was going to try and square this end up and then trim it that way, but I don't think that would be more time involved than what we need to have. So.
Right. Cutting off the flange that we need and the rest of the 5.5 inches that we don't need. Keeping that, getting rid of that. And now we can square off our ends and make it nice and clean. Nice clean square surface now to get us a good butt weld on that axle housing. Get a little taper just to get the weld in there.
No, just make it not look like the guys that use filter wheels did it.
I like that.
Hopefully none of them moved to Utah, huh?
No, hopefully none of them got YouTube either.
Yeah, well.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, and they got New York connections too, so.
That's right.
What do you want to do?
There it is. There's the 5.5 inches we had to lose out of our axle housing. Now I'm just gonna pull this off real quick and clean up these edges. Looking pretty square. So we put these replacement bearings into the carrier, and then Roger's saying there's a bar that'll go through to replicate where the axles are, and then it'll hold the ends on to
precision ground. Looks like 1.25 inches in diameter.
Hold everything together while we weld it. Damn rainstorms. Well, I guess the Wildcat gets a bath today.
Did it before.
Yeah.
Can we go home now?
Almost.
Oh yeah.
All right, so now that bar is in there through the replicated bearings in our third member, and then this out here will allow us to secure the end so we can get a nice tight weld. Okay, and then keep checking it and make sure it still rotates.
Once it's locked in, so it ain't going nowhere now. So.
Okay.
as long as this, usually just turn this cup here. As long as he's rotating in there, you're in good shape.
Cool. Goodbye. Alrighty. Let's get us a final weld now on this flange. We'll kind of go maybe about an inch or so and kind of rotate it and just control our heat, but we'll get this thing welded up, and as I'm going, I'm just gonna keep rotating this fixture, which has that bar through the center line, which is kind of replicating how it will be sitting as the axle and the bearing. So, I mean, at this point, it shouldn't bind up at all, but that's why we tacked it at first, and then we actually rotate this around to make sure that we didn't go crooked and not square. Otherwise, when you rotated this bar on the inside, it wouldn't rotate. So we know we're good to go. Time to weld. All right, got our welder set up. I can get us a good little length here, and we can start our weld. Oh yeah. Tasty. That's right. Stick it in there, right? See?
Yeah, you can. WD on there. It's alright, that will slide in and out. That's turn up the old one.
Okay, so we still got enough spline action. Cool.
Really like that.
Perfect. Looks like I didn't mess up yet.
We got the other half of the road.
Yeah, that's right. On the driver's side now, we're just gonna rinse and repeat what we did over on the passenger side. So just kind of making our rough cut to start with, eliminate the first 5.5 inches we need out of here, and then we can move the 2.5 inch flange part that we need in, take it over on the lathe, get it nice and cleaned up, get a good bevel on it, and put our axle shortening fixture on it, and do the same thing that we did before, and get this thing welded in looking good. Just go real slow at first, kind of get a line scribed in there, and then zip around it and finish it off. Part number 1 off.
Well, look at that shit.
Done. Let's clean our little 2-inch, 2.5-inch flange off. Make it look nice.
Keep your mom out a couple of days. It's a big job, isn't it?
While Roger's over there on the lathe getting that 2.5-inch flange cut down, I'm going to get this rough cut cleaned up. We'll clean up the insides, get the outside cleaned up nicely. Then as we get on here, we'll get it reconnected on here and get a measurement, and then if we need to remove any material out of either side, we can do that. Got us some rain moving in. Hang on there, Buick. You're gonna be all right. Make some bacon.
Jill, look at that. Guy actually knows what he's doing. Pro tip from the wife.
I don't know.
No problem now.
That one. Oh, he's on the go. Shorten the rear. Let's go test it out on Hefty. Let's see how it looks. Down Hot Rod Alley over here. Get this big mama out. Will she fit? Just barely. All right. Yep. Come on. Heading over to Hefty. Let's fit you out over here. This cute little axle housing. Look at this little thing. It's cool. Hell yeah. Way cool. And the axle. Here, you like this? You like Daddy's axle? Nice and short? My weld's looking like crap? Hell yeah. Elliot approves. Hell yeah. Ooh, Mopar Queen. Gonna stick the leaf springs back where they belong real quick. And find my hangers. can get ourselves an eyeball on how we did. All right, let's see how we did here. Well, that still fits. That's cool. Looks like we're kind of in line with the drive shaft. That's also cool. We didn't relocate our leaf spring perches, so the axle this way, as far as the center of the third member goes relative to the drive shaft, and leaf spring should still be the same, but the question now is, did we take too much or too little out of the axle housing, and are the wheels going to stick out, or are they right where they need to be? So we're going to test that by move this big tire out of the way real quick, shove an axle down the axle housing, and then stick a tire on it. Okay. Axle is seated. Now the big question. How did we do? Walk it in, walking it in. Work it, work it. All right. Luckily I went drag light aluminum on these. Come on. Did we grab the forward bolt pattern here or the Mopar one? Nice. Heck yeah. That is on there. Cool. Looks like we're good here. Are we hitting on the leaf spring, babe? Feels like we've got about an inch back here. The front of the tire is just barely catching the part of the quarter here. So we can either relocate where the spring, or I could just do a little bit of body work and trim the quarter right here too. Either way, that's easy, but I think we did it right over here because we've got the same amount of clearance, about 1.5 inches between the outside of the tire and the quarter, and what feels to be about 1 inch between the back side of the tire and the leaf spring. So, looking good. Let's test the other side out. Taking out the axle from driver's side. There we go. And let's test out the other side. Alright, and theoretically this will also work because both of our axles are the same length, so that's why I can use just one for both sides. Have them both cut to 24 inches, and we're probably just going to have to take a little bit off the ends of it and then taper them out. Better to have a little extra than not enough. Alright. Okay. Axle is seated. Let's sit in the shed.
Gross.
Alright, coming up. Come on now. Alright. Yeah, we got a little bit of rub on the front of this tire here in the quarter too, so I had to kind of angle it to get it on. So we're gonna have to either adjust my quarter, wheel well opening, or the location of the axle, which if you guys have been following along so far, right now there's not enough time before we get to the match show to actually eliminate the leaf springs, do all the work for restructuring everything, and then putting the coilovers on. So we're pretty much just going to put coilovers where the shocks would go and keep the leaf springs. So we're going to have the coilovers where the shocks would go. So we're basically going to have double up on springs at this point. The leaf springs are going to serve more or less as keeping the axle in place, and then the coilovers will actually function as they should. So when I actually take out the leaf springs, maybe I can adjust the axle back a little bit in its location. But for now, I might have to just shave a little bit of this quarter we'll figure it out. But either way, looks like we've got a good 1.5 inch clearance here, and we've got clearance to the rear of the leaf spring. All right. So yeah, looks like we did a good job cutting. Didn't quite think through the fact that I went from a 29-inch tall tire to a 31-inch tire. So now we're a little bit close again here on the wheel well, but there's nothing but a little bit of cut, a little bit of body work, a little bit of blending on the paint. We got this. Our axle from this side. So we can sleep well tonight knowing I at least didn't screw up cutting the axle housing. Just gonna have to make a little bit of room right here in the wheel well for the tire, but that's great. So now we can take this back to Rogers tomorrow, get the rest of the housing cleaned up really good, get our third member and our carrier and everything put back together, new bearing kit and everything, have this thing right and fresh, paint it, bring it back here, and then get our coilovers put in. Like we talked about before too, the guys I bought this from put this panhard bar in up here, which isn't good with leaf springs because your leaf springs, as they move with the hangers, need to have forward and rear movement a little bit, and this restricts that movement, so it'll cause bind on your coil, or on your it'll cause bind on your leaf springs. So we're just gonna get rid of this. This could work with certain 4-link applications. Might add one later on, but this thing's like bent and ugly anyway. So just gonna knock this thing out all together. That's what this bracket was up here, and yeah, properly somewhere down the road eliminate the job that was done here to tub this thing by the other people, where they just left all of this open and gross, and really finish this off nicely. Because once I eliminate the leaf springs, the leaf spring hanger location here doesn't need to exist, and then I can restructure the frame rails and come around this way and make this look a whole lot nicer. But that's not happening in 5 days until we go to Met. So that being said, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning at Rogers.